Okay. So hi all, my name is Prashant and I've been working on AWS for some time now, and I have worked with.
Sorry, Prashant, would you be a little bit louder?
Oh, okay, sure. Is it audible now?
Yes, better now. Good.
Okay. So my name is Prashant and I have been working on AWS for quite a while now, and I have worked with different architectures and all. So yeah, from what Harish had told me about the current whatever the training that you have done till now, as of now, so I see like you have already completed EC2s, how to add users, and then go ahead and register users into your EC2 instances. So I guess like most of you are familiar with that, right? Uh,
Yeah, Prashant.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So since we are familiar with that, so we will have a interactive session here so rather than me just talking. So okay. So for today we are going to cover auto scaling. So how many of you know like the current like before cloud came in, what were the most common issues that people used to face in that industry, when especially it comes to server management, maintenance and everything. So just to elaborate on that, so I'll just give a few points which are the most pain points when it was like before cloud computing and everything came into picture. So everything was on premise at that particular time, or it would be on a data center or something like that. So now what used to happen, the most important issues were sometimes due to something like sometimes the system's computation capability reached 100%, and because of which the server went down. So these kinds of things were pretty common when we used to go and handle that particular thing when either on premise. So what we used to do was people used to go there, manually go into that particular thing, set up a new instance, or try to troubleshoot on the same instance and try to bring it up. So what used to happen in this particular scenario is always there was a certain downtime involved whenever you go and do these kinds of activities. Even if you try to bring up a new system, set up and try to move it in the meanwhile and everything with the data, still there will be a certain amount of downtime. So I means this is the common scenarios which was there with respect to issues or something whenever it comes to infra management and maintenance. So with cloud, they initially started off with creating instances and everything. So when cloud came in, they also started with the same set of things. They started providing instances and everything. But now what happened is, uh, say suppose the concept of so now I'm coming like why the concept of auto scaling was introduced. So now so as we saw earlier, like whenever there is a server, there is an issue on the server instance or something like that. So what used to happen in this particular case? So basically what will happen is you go troubleshoot, try to create a new instance and everything. Now suppose you create a cluster, out of it one instance went down. Now we try to manually do something and do all those things. So let's just say now in this particular scenario, when an instance goes down, even cloud had the same set of instances. Okay, what to do? Like every time the user cannot raise a request saying, okay, my instance has gone down, you bring it up. So like that, if it goes on, there will be a huge number of requests which will be coming across to the cloud vendors, and they will be fully flocked with creating all these particular entertaining these requests itself, rather than developing new stuff. So now in this particular instance, what they did was they introduced a certain concept which is called as auto scaling. I'll just start sharing my screen before we start. And in case if anyone has any questions or doubts, please stop me at that particular point so that we can, address the questions and then move forward. So any questions still, like why, like what was the premise on the basis of which auto scaling come into picture, or what are the issues like till now? Any questions before we go and check out what auto scaling is or the basics of it?
No, it's good, Prashant, for now.
Okay. Okay. So basically, so I'm continuing forward. So basically, auto scaling, the reason auto scaling was introduced was to avoid all kinds of these, maintenance management requests and everything coming in. So whenever, so auto scaling, the name itself suggests something like, in case if there is a failure or something which happens on any of any clients machines or something, so it should not have a manual intervention over there. Rather, it should
Prashant,
automatic.
Prashant, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, raise this question, but unfortunately, I'm unable to connect. See, Prashant, before going to start with auto scaling, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you mean to say this is going to be like completely a specific concept in cloud only, or it's in a on-premise itself we can manage with this auto scaling? How exactly it is, by the way?
On premise we can do that, but on premise, in order to do that, what happens is you require a certain amount of expertise. So bigger
Mhm.
organizations and all, right, they can do that
Mhm.
because they will hire skilled expertise, talents and everything, with who knows with respect. Because if you take Unix as one of the operating systems, so in order to do that, what will you do? In this particular case, you will put all kinds of monitoring scripts and everything you will write by your own hands. So you need people who are Unix related, people who know Unix as an operating system by default, right? Now, if the same.
So you mean to say that, okay, if we want to maintain this auto scaling and on-premise, means it is a lot of challenges are existing. So we are going with the cloud
Challenges.
definitely. And challenges in the sense, resource expertise and
Yes.
technically needs to be like very strong, and
Mhm.
needs to maintaining the scripts, and these are supposed to be like monitored all the time. All
Right.
these things are there, so that is the reason we are first in place we are going with cloud in this context.
No,
And the
not.
specific to,
Okay,
mm-hmm,
one thing I would like to correct here is not we are going to
mm-hmm.
cloud for just this purpose. This purpose
No, no, no.
is like, yeah,
There are plenty of reasons behind why we are moving to cloud compared
right.
to on-premise. This is the one of the reason you are trying to say, right?
Uh, yes, one of the reasons, but the reason I brought that earlier premise was just to highlight the case why auto scaling came into picture. So auto scaling, or this is more like monitor and healing. You can just say auto scaling is kind of like constant monitoring, and in case if there is an issue, healing that particular cluster or that particular group of instances which you're using as part of your infrastructure. So even in on-premise, you can do that, but the entire amount of cost and everything that will be involved, it's the same thing. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what you said is right. Basically, cost becomes one of the important parameters when it comes to on-premise and cloud. So in
Yeah,
cloud.
now it sounds pretty justified right now.
Right.
Prashant, you can continue. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay. So basically, the premise for coming to auto scaling was is because of this. So basically, cloud has this auto scaling feature because of this particular thing, so that we need not have to go and manually, do all those kinds of troubleshootings. Auto scaling itself will do for it, these things for you on its own. So when it comes to auto scaling, we can break this entire term into two things. First is automatic, which we can ignore for now. Now when it comes to scaling, this has multiple, like depending upon what type of auto scaling we are using. In that sense, right, the notion differs here. Say suppose one important base concept is monitoring the existing instances, and in case if something happens or something untoward happens towards a particular instance, then the next part of the step is healing. What needs to be done? The healing will cover what needs to be done in case if some incident happens on that particular cluster or that particular set of instances. So that is what brings the term auto scaling into picture. So AWS supports this auto scaling so that there is no manual intervention, and it is a fully managed service which is handled by AWS. Now going forward, first of all, we'll see what are the different types of auto scaling that are currently supported by AWS. So AWS supports these 4 different types of auto scalings. One is called as fleet management auto scaling, and then you have scheduled scaling, then you have dynamic scaling, and then the fourth one, which is the latest one, which AWS is supporting, although not explicitly used, on a larger scale, but even this is currently, which is the newest one, is being supported by AWS, which is predictive scaling. So as part of today's session, to get our concept straight, we are going to go through all of these particular things. Only difference, but practically we will be covering fleet management scaling first.
Sorry, Prashant, I have one small doubt. Like
Yeah,
I heard, like there is a two kinds of scaling. One is vertical and one is horizontal, right?
okay.
So is something different here? I am not able to correlate.
Okay, okay, fine. So in order to cover that particular point, right? So I'll just clear out that concept first. So when it comes to scaling, whenever you talk about scaling, right, especially in terms of here in AWS, or even in terms of when you're on premise or anything, usually people do not prefer vertical scaling. Vertical scaling is like, I have a system right now. First time when I created my instance, I'm just starting my in my organization, I wanted a server instance to be present in which I'm going to put my application. Currently, only one project is using that application which I created. So what happens? I'll say, give me the basic instance. You will ask the infra people to just set up an instance for you, which will have the basic set of requirements. Say, you will say, I want 2 GB of RAM, say 40 GB of space or something, and then the basic whatever the hertz and gigahertz and everything, whatever requirement you have. Now what happens over a period of time, say suppose now what is happening is your number of projects that are using that increases. Now in that particular case, now you have an option. One is either to improve the capabilities of the current single system that you have. So suppose I said, let's just say from a RAM perspective, my 2 GB RAM was not enough to handle 2 projects. Now there are 4 projects. Now what happens? Your application keeps on going down again and again because of this RAM constraint. So what you will do is, you will say, okay, please increase my RAM to 4 GB. Then after a few more projects get added, then you will say, okay, this is again not enough. You will say, okay, add to 8 GB. But the problem with this is called vertical scaling. Just to put that into context, this is called vertical scaling. Now vertical scaling is like, you are having a single instance and you are improving the capabilities of that instance by putting a better hardware into it. Now there is a limit with which you can do vertical scaling, because hardware always has a limitation. Now what is the other approach which we can any questions here with respect to vertical scaling before I move on to horizontal scaling?
No, Prashant.
Okay, so I'll be moving on to horizontal scaling now. Now, when I say horizontal scaling, what happens is, say suppose the same system, as you said, I had the base system, which is like 2 GB, and the other parameters for that, for that particular system that I had created. Now, rather than increasing it to 4 GB, what I will do is, I'll create a cluster now. Rather than having just a single, system with 2 GB, I'll add one more system, which is another 2 GB. Now, in this case, what happens is, you are creating a cluster of instances or servers now, and you will add of course you will add the other requirements like load balancer, that is the usual thing which comes in whenever you create a cluster. But essentially horizontal scaling, what is you are doing is, if you have one instance, you are making another instance. Probably you might also increase, you might do a vertical scaling for the current instance, but then you will feel like, okay, since the project demands are increasing, vertical scaling might not cope up in the future, so let's do a horizontal scaling and let's make a cluster of instances. Now the advantage of making a cluster of instances is, I have a 4 GB system now. I did once vertical scaling. Then what I'll do is, I'll put one another system with the same configuration of 4 GB. Now what is happening is, your system, as you scale vertically, right, your cost for that particular system increases exponentially. But in the same time, when you add a new instance with the same set of configurations what you might have had earlier, what is happening is, you're not paying much. You're exactly making a replica of the same instance, and the hardware costs are less as compared to going up on a vertical scaling basis. So you can add n number of instances in this particular case based on your requirements, and then you can remove as well as and when you require it. But in the case of vertical scaling, once you have purchased it, it's done, right? You cannot now go and say, okay, I don't need this, okay, like for now just remove this and give me a lesser this thing. It's basically a hardware change now. So this is essentially the difference between vertical scaling and horizontal scaling. And yeah, so this is so any doubts on the concept of vertical and horizontal scaling?
No, Prashant. It's clear.
Okay. So if that is clear, so whenever we are talking about scaling on, on any particular cloud platform, scaling always means we are scaling on a horizontal scaling level. It's never vertical. And if you want to see an example of vertical scaling, you can say now you are using, you launched an instance with say suppose the minimum, the T2 micro or something like that. Then now what happens, your system requires like you don't need a bigger cluster. Now in this particular case, what you will do is you will go for a higher instance, higher capability instance. That is vertical scaling, because that is a very rarely used instance, which will run on a daily basis, but the frequency of increase is not that much. It's just a one-time increase, and then I'll be done for almost like 4 to 5 years. I don't have to think about it. So in this particular case, I will not go for horizontal scaling. I'll just increase the increase that particular the capabilities of that particular instance, then I'll be done with it for the next 4 to 5 years. But in the example that I used, wherein your application is constantly building or increasing on a bigger scale, then in this particular case you should always go for horizontal scaling. And horizontal scaling in this particular sense, in AWS sense, is auto scaling. So we are okay till now?
Yep. Yeah, Prashant. So in terms of vertical scaling, we are not preferring that to apply in AWS cloud, right? So whatever we do here, it would be only on horizontal scaling. In horizontal scaling, these are the different types which AWS is offering for us currently.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So any other questions? Okay. So moving forward, so these are the four different types of, say horizontal scaling, or which we will call it as auto scaling in this particular case, which AWS is currently supporting. One is fleet management scaling, scheduled scaling, dynamic scaling, and predictive scaling. Now, before we jump into these things, like we'll just see what is the basic of scaling, and we will also cover, one of the equations in this particular basic of scaling, which is fleet management scaling. Okay. So now auto scaling. So what happens is, these are some of the terms which are used in AWS current environment. So for now, just ignore the terms, and just since you are already I hope everyone is aware about instance availability zone, since already these sessions have been done, right? So okay. So in this particular sense, I'll just skip this point. I'll just create a particular scenario here, which will help us relate to what autoscaling does. Say suppose I have a particular server running in this instance, and I have in this particular instance, now I need to make this like now my requirement from in my organization is I need this system in a high availability mode. So that means you cannot have this particular, when you say as soon as the term, you must always remember, as soon as the term high availability comes in to picture, right, you need to remember your system or your instance server instances needs to be placed into different availability zones. This is one of the key principles that needs to be followed whenever the term high availability comes into picture. Now, in this particular sense, say the client has said, okay, we need a high availability system. So I'll create two instances in two different availability zones. So this is what it means. Now you have, so now what I'll do is I'll put a layer of auto scaling on this particular thing, because and one thing to be remembered before I go ahead, always always remember, auto scaling is one of the most fundamental principles of infrastructure designing. With any particular organization or any particular infrastructure you set up, they will always be heavily relying on auto scaling. This is one of the most important concepts that needs to be understood very clearly, because most of the organization, they bank on pretty high availability, high reliability kind of systems, and in order to do that, auto scaling is the answer for everything. So once you have your system set up, you cannot just okay, I have this was a high availability requirement, I did it, it's completed. It should not be like that. What if, So say suppose I have not, assuming there is no auto scaling in the picture, you have configured your elastic load balancers, and then you have your instances in different availability zone. Okay, first initial case, everything is perfect, you have met the client's demand. Now what happens? Now what happens is, initially for the first 1 month and everything, it worked perfectly fine. Elastic load balancer was dividing the traffic and everything into these particular instances very perfectly. There was no issues, nothing that, I mean, it worked perfectly as a charm. Then one day what happened, suddenly say suppose you are an e-commerce client, you are working for an e-commerce client, and that client had released an offer, say maybe a big $1 billion sale or something like that. Now one day the load on this particular thing became so much, it directed the traffic, but one of the instances was not able to handle that and it went down. Now in this case, what will happen now? The entire set of load which is coming for that particular day will be routed here, right? And will this instance be able to handle it? Since this instance was not able to handle when both of them were working, will it be able to handle it when this one instance is, when only this instance is present? No, it won't be able to handle it. So in this particular case, you have a case of system failure or an entire infra failure. Although you have met the client's requirement, which is you have only met the implicit requirements of the clients. No, sorry, the explicit requirements which the client had stated to you. But there are some implicit requirements which comes in by default whenever a client says something, which is it should not just be a high availability system. It should also be a reliable system, able to handle any kind of failure or downtime kind of things. Is that okay till now?
Yeah, Prashant.
Okay. So moving forward, so what in this infrastructure wise, when what we do is, when you have hosted your instances in different availability zones, you have load balancers and everything, right? So what you do is, you add a layer of auto scaling on top of this entire your instances in the different availability zones. You will add a layer of auto scaling on top of it. Now what happens in this particular scenario? Auto scaling, the fundamental principle or the role of auto scaling is to ensure, like there are many roles which will come depending on the type that we'll be seeing, but the main fundamental role that you need to remember is, it is responsible for monitoring and healing of your entire infrastructure. Now when you add this particular layer in the auto scaling group, right, now what will happen is, first one is, it will always keep on monitoring these two instances. Okay, it will always be monitoring these instances, and it will have you covered CloudWatch as of now, Harish?
No, Prashant, I have not
Okay.
covered CloudWatch.
So probably in the future when CloudWatch and everything comes in, right? So what you will see is as you know, like these instances will always be monitored, right? All these monitoring information, basically CloudWatch is something like a centralized location for all your cloud related monitoring activities. So whenever any instances will go down or something, alarm or a trigger kind of thing will be sent to CloudWatch, which will have some kind of a record which it will maintain. And as soon as something goes down, it will have a record of that particular thing. Oh, saying this particular thing has gone down, and I have a record. And in case, what auto scaling group does is, it will always make sure to monitor these kinds of entries which comes into CloudWatch. So if any of these, so in the previous example that we considered, you have, as the client said, you have put a highly available system, but in order to ensure that they are also highly reliable, what you have done is, you have put a layer of auto scaling group on top of it. Now whenever you specify auto scaling group, there are three things which are extremely important to be mentioned. So first thing is, say suppose in my case, I always desire like minimum number of instances, how much it should be as part of your application setup. So you will say, in my case, I'll say it is 2. Then I will say how much should be the maximum number. For now, I will say just 2. Then they will ask, what is the desired number of instances? You have specified the minimum, you have specified the maximum. Now, how much do you want to run at any given point of time? is what they are asking, like how much should be definitely running. So that is what is desired number of instances. So in this case, I say 2. Now, once you set this particular rules and constraints as part of your auto scaling group, right? Now what happens? This becomes the rule, the law for auto scaling, or the rule for the entire auto scaling principle. So now what has happened? I have set the rules. Now, on the day of the sale, when these particular instances are working, now what because of certain load or certain excess exceeding capabilities or something, this instance somehow goes down. Now, as soon as this goes down, there will be some triggers and alarms which will be triggered, which will go to CloudWatch, and from CloudWatch, this you can ignore CloudWatch for now and just think about it as like this auto scaling group is monitoring these instances in this availability zone. As soon as this one goes down, it immediately will come to know, okay, this guy has gone down. Now what do I need to do? So this is an incident which has occurred. So I said, right, first one is monitoring. As part of monitoring, it has detected that this instance has gone down and an incident has occurred. So it has immediately identified this particular part. Now, the next step comes healing. What do I need to do? So what it will do is, it will immediately start creating a new instance. It will add a new instance here. Now, it will start creating a new instance. So till that particular time, the load balancer, what it will do is, it will start redirecting that load here. So for some amount of time, till this particular instance comes up, this guy will be bearing the entire set of load. Now, once your auto scaling group, it will take, almost like 2 to 3 minutes. And within 2 to 3 minutes, it will bring this server up. Now, once the server is up, it will go and register this with the Elastic ELB, saying this is the new instance that has been added as part of this application's, you can say target group or something, if you are using that. So as soon as this comes to Elastic Load Balancer comes to know, okay, a new instance has been spin up and the server is properly running and everything with the health checks that has been happened. So immediately it will start, balancing that particular traffic and it will start rerouting it here. So this is the main job of auto scaling. And this is essentially what we have covered right now, is what it does at the basic level. Any questions over here?
Prashant, this maximum count, if I give more than 2, like around 5 or 6,
Right.
so what is the purpose of it? I mean, my understanding is like if a load comes to grow till 6 or 6 or 4 instances, is it like that?
Yes, so it depends. Okay, first thing is, as I said, we have different types of auto scaling, right? So if you are running it in a fleet management type of scaling, we'll come to that question on when we come to dynamic scaling. Is that okay if we hold on to that question and
That is fine. Now I want to understand, differentiate, like what is this minimum and maximum? Desired,
Right.
I understand.
Yeah. So this the reason I brought these parameters right off from the start was because these are the key fundamental parameters which auto scaling banks upon to function properly. So that's the reason I had to bring it right away. But we will see it when we go through each and every type of auto scaling.
Fine.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. So I hope everyone is clear with the basics, how auto scaling works. If you can just confirm, we can move ahead.
Yes, Prashant. It's
Okay, sure. Then, yeah. Someone had a question? Okay, I'll be moving ahead now then, since we have no questions. So let's just say, let's just take now we will go through the different types of auto scaling. So, okay, fleet management. So basically we have different types of scaling. So first thing that we will be concentrating on is a fleet management. Now, why is fleet management considered as a different type of auto scaling? Now, what happens is you have you have started your organization as of now. Okay, you're a startup. I'll just try to make it more as relatable as possible to real life scenarios. So suppose you have just started a startup And what is initially when you start off, you have created some servers. So okay, just to make sure that this is a highly available system, you have added 3 instances over here, and you have made sure that your system is in a cluster mode and with an ELB in place. So this is what you have done. Now initially, any startup, when they start off, they won't have a high requirement about a great intake coming in, at least not for a possible period of time, at least till they have a substantial amount of customers, right? So that's the usual case how startups scale. So in this particular case, the most significant scaling mechanism that can apply to them is, in the case that I have mentioned, is fleet management. The reason being, what you do is I mean, if you are infrastructure person and you get this kind of requirement, I want a high availability system as of now, and we are going to launch this as a new application and everything, and we are just starting off. So you create a high availability system, you add a load balancer, and then you add a few set of EC2 instances in different availability zone. You add a auto scaling group on top of it. Now what fleet management, I'll tell you what auto scaling as part of fleet management does. Now when you say fleet management, auto scaling treats all these particular instances which has been grouped together under it as a fleet. Now the responsibility for fleet management is basically 3 things. One is, it ensures the load balancers requests whichever are coming in is properly redirected to all 3 instances. And this is just a miscellaneous requirement for it. But what is the main fundamental of this thing? If in case any of these instances go down, say suppose my server one has gone down, so in this case what will happen is, fleet management will make sure that your fleet is back to your original number of instances. So immediately what it will do is, it will add a new instance, as we saw in the previous example, based on the configurations that you have given in the minimum, maximum, and the desired capacity. And then on that particular basis, it will add a new instance. This is one of the main implementations or task of fleet management auto scaling. It's one of the most basics and the most important feature. Okay, so in fleet management, you just need to consider this is what happens. Is this fine?
Yep.
Okay, fine. So this is what fleet management does. You can say fleet management auto scaling is the most basic and the most fundamental or important principle of auto scaling. This is what fleet management is. Now suppose this let's go a bit further away, a step away from this case of startup. Now the organization has been fairly established. Now you have a substantial amount of customer base, and now what happens is, every once in a while you start giving up offers on, say suppose Wednesday or Thursday, you start giving up on the case, let's consider the case of Wednesday. You just start giving off certain offers to customers, and suddenly you find out like, okay, Wednesday what is happening is the number of customers that are coming in are more, and because of that, what is happening, every time the load on your servers increases at that particular point of time, right? Okay, okay, this example we'll take it for dynamic scaling. So let's just go for first, as we'll go it in the same order as we had mentioned here. So we have completed the concepts of fleet management scaling. Now let's go for scheduled scaling. Okay, I'll just give one scenario. I'll just expect an response from your end, like whether you have experienced this scenario in your organization or not. So in the case of so say suppose every organization has basically two sets of environments. You can have one or more or two or more, but I'm considering two. One is the prod environment and the other one is the non-prod environment, right? So this is how organizations manage their environments, right?
Yeah, Prashant.
Okay. So if that is the case, you always expect prod instances to always be running, correct?
Yep.
Then what about the case of non-prod environments? Do you want all the setup that you have to be running always?
Not really. So if you want to release some patches, so we can Like I can have I can say that there will be a stage environment where you can push your changes and the new features and make the test prod and bring the actual prod down like that, interchanging alternatively. I
Yeah,
can say that
okay.
this
What,
stage.
yeah, I mean, in a way, what you're talking about is a blue-green kind of environment on the prod environment. That is a kind of different concept. But here, what we are talking about is we have multiple environments, right? Say, suppose we have multiple. Let's just say we have prod and non-prod. Non-prod can have dev stage, and then you can have
Okay.
QA and everything.
Yeah.
So all these
Yep.
environments, is it necessary that we run the instances every day, all time?
No, not really.
Not
Not
necessary,
really.
Prashant. For
Yeah.
example, Dev and QA environments, only when the resources are in office, when they get into office at 8 o'clock and they leave the office at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, only for that particular point of time, we would require the EC2 instances or whatever the servers are required for this
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
environment.
got your point.
Yeah, so exactly. So basically, what happens? How does your cost? How do you estimate your cost when you actually propose a particular architecture to your client? Basically, cost comes in based on how the services are being charged. So in the case of instances, it is being charged on the basis of how much time or how much days it is running, right? Based on the number of time. So now, if you keep your non-prod environments, running continuously like how you do your prod environments, and you're not using it for almost more than 70% of your time. So what is the use of paying for those instances when you're not using it? It doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
So in this particular case, what we are going to do is we are going to go for something called as scheduled scaling. Now, how does scheduled scaling help? So what does scaling tell us is, you tell us, you inform us as part of, you define the rule in the as part of the scaling policies. You define a rule saying, I want the instances to be active. Say suppose I'll say on weekdays my team comes in at around 9. So what you will say is, as part of the scaling policy, I will say my work time for these instances should start at 8 in the morning, and then you say most of the people they log out by 7. So I'll say I'll keep 1 hour of buffer and say by 8 o'clock all my instances should go down on a weekday. Now this comes to be the case of weekdays. Now what happens on weekends? Is anyone working on weekends on the non-prod environments? Usually the answer is no, right?
Yeah, not necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, yes, of course, but usually the answer is no. Like
Yeah.
you can say only when there is an exigent circumstances, you have a release or something, then you might probably extend on extend to maybe say suppose for QAs, if they want to complete it immediately on, so you might extend to weekends, or if there is a performance thing to be done, so the performance team might extend on the weekends to run some performance jobs and all. So of course it depends on different cases, but 80% of the time no one uses normal say suppose if you're working in an agile, the first of 3 weeks, then for the first 2 weeks weekends no one will work. So even on weekends you will expect it to be completely down, right? So using scheduled scaling, what you can do is you can set up rules wherein you can say, okay, for weekdays my instances should come up at 8 in the morning and go down at 8 in the evening, whereas in the weekends my instances should remain down throughout the day. And in case if you explicitly need it for any particular week, you can change the rule again anyways later like as and when it is needed. So this is the entire principle of scheduled scaling.
Sure.
So is this fine?
Yeah, fine, Prashant.
Okay. So now we'll move for dynamic scaling. So we considered the example in this particular case saying initially we took the example of a startup, right? Now assume your startup has grown and you have a consistent amount of a set of users and everything, and you basically know exactly what is what is happening and everything and all. And one more example, just before I move forward, The same thing in the case of schedule scaling, you can also do one more activity as well. As I said in the example wherein I said, Wednesday, you are giving some offers to customers. Now, when you're giving offers to customers, the number of loads on Wednesday is much higher as compared to normal days. So you have observed it on a pretty long duration of period. You have observed, like, whenever it happens, your load on the server on Wednesday is pretty high, and sometimes most of the requests that are coming in, they get dropped because of that. Now what do? Every day it is on Wednesday it is happening. So what can I do to prevent that? So what you will do in this case is, you can also schedule the scaling, not just to bring up servers and take the servers down. You can also put a scheduled scaling in order to add a new server for a specific period of time. You can use scheduled scaling to do that as well. Is that context also okay, or do we need to elaborate on this as well?
It's okay.
That should be fine, Prashant.
Fine. Understood, Prashant. Fine.
Okay, so that is one another use case. Now we will use the same use case with respect to my traffic increasing and everything. So now this time we will go with the example for dynamic scaling. Same thing. Say let's say our startup has increased and everything, and we have a great number customer base and everything. Now the initial set of instances that we have done with fleet management is no longer working for us. The fleet management auto scaling principles is no longer working for us. Now what other parameters we have to consider? We have scheduled, but we can go for schedule. But what you want is more like not a schedule, because I don't know, like I'm not having that offer kind of thing which will work out on a daily basis or something. My startup is like, I work on a daily basis. I don't know when my traffic might come and what particular point my traffic might go down. So in these kinds of scenarios, you cannot go for schedule scaling. Otherwise, you will be paying up unnecessary cost. So basically, these auto scaling principles needs to be selected on the basis of what the user's use case is. Now, in the previous use case, initially when we saw, it was just a startup. The user just wanted to make sure that it's a highly available, high reliable. You made it into a fleet management system, auto scaling principle. You made it into different availability zones and delivered it, and it's done. Now the next set of requirement was for from a client who says, okay, I have a requirement wherein is for that auto scaling part, the non-prod and environment example what we saw. In that case, we cannot go with fleet management because it will always keep your instances running. So I'll just go there and I'll use the the schedule scaling policy. And even the schedule scaling policy can be used in the events when you're very sure that for that particular period of time, my traffic is going to spike and I want a new server to be added. Like in the case of Flipkart will have, or Amazon will have their usual sale for 2 or 3 days or 1 day or something like that. So what they will do is, for those specific days, they will put a scheduled scaling policy in place. On those 3 specific days, add another 5 servers into the existing set of servers. So that is the use case that they have. Now, in the use case where the user comes and says, I'm not sure when my traffic is going to spike or when my traffic is going to drop, but I'm sure that my moderate amount of traffic that is going to come is this much, and this is my average thing, and these many instances are definitely required for me to support it, the average traffic. That is what he says. But he says, I want the system, however, to be able to handle these kinds of spikes which will come. Say suppose suddenly one particular day, for the entire day the spike was pretty high, and for some other particular day it was pretty low. So I want the system to be complacent enough to handle these kinds of changes which happen. At that kind of time, you cannot go for fleet management or schedule scaling, or you will end up paying more than what you have bargained for. That's why, or you will end up with a particular scenario wherein your server is not able to keep it, handle those kinds of changes or the dynamic requests, change in the dynamic requests which are coming in. That is when you're going to go for dynamic scaling. Now what does dynamic scaling imply? So what dynamic scaling implies is, suppose you have this particular scenario wherein you have basically in dynamic scaling, what happens is as part of your scaling policies, you do not mention the time, or you do not mention the time period when you want a new instance to be taken down, brought up, or to be added. What you're going to specify as part of dynamic scaling is the metrics with respect to the system. Say suppose I have 2 instances which I am running as part of the requirement the client gave. I set up a high availability with these 2 instances in 2 availability zones, and then my ELV is sharing the load among these things, and my auto scaling group is configured. Now, while setting the auto scaling, while I'm configuring the auto scaling group for dynamic scaling, what I'm going to do is, as part of dynamic scaling, you have to specify what metric are you going to use in order for the, either a new instance to be brought in, or a new instance or the instance to be removed. Okay. I hope it is clear till this point, the metrics. So metrics is kind of like, we'll come to metrics, what are the different kind of metrics that might be used in the case of dynamic scaling. But I hope at least the basic concept of dynamic scaling is clear by now.
Yes, Prashant.
Okay. So moving forward, what we are going to do is, say we'll take the existing example itself for the scenario. We will say the client has said, okay, these are the 2 EC2 instances. My input requests are the normal thing. The average is this much. 2 instances are enough for me to handle the average daily requests that are coming in. And in order to handle any of the spikes or something, you can negotiate with that particular client and say, okay, what is the expectation? Say suppose in case if your request comes in and it goes over, what would you like to say, save as a threshold? Like in case if this crosses, then I need to bring in some new servers. So what should be the threshold? So the client will, check, and then he will deliberate, and then he will say, okay, I think for me, my applications are a CPU, CPU compute related application. So usually my compute capability is what my application usually eats up. So what he will say is, usually you do one thing. If my CPU utilization goes above 75%, then you do one thing, you add a new server instance. Okay, that is what the rule that we are going to set. So now if that is the rule which has been added, then what will happen is, say suppose one particular day, you get an excess of request, and once you get this excess of request, your CPU utilization has gone, has crossed the threshold, which which the user has said and which we have set as a rule, which is set 75%. Now when this happens, you have a rule which is set with respect to this. You remember you asked what is the usage of maximum. Now this is the usage of maximum. Now when you say minimum 2 and my desired number of instances should be 2, that means I am saying 2 instances should already be always be running, and my minimum is always also 2. And now what you are saying here is, here its maximum is 2, but now I can say based on the traffic or something, initially I don't know how much servers or I might need, so I'll just say one more than what is essentially my desired number. So I'll say 3. Now what will happen is, as soon as your CPU utilization of the entire this instances goes above 75%, now what it will do is, since you have set the maximum value as 3, it will add one more instance over here. So once it has added one more instance, now your CPU utilization will again go down. Now what happens if again your CPU utilization, even after adding one server, it again goes above this 75%. Now the problem is it has crossed the threshold, but now since you have set the maximum as 3, now it won't add any new instances after this. The reason being because you have set your rule like that as such, with the maximum being at 3. So even if the auto scaling group knows that the threshold has been crossed, we need to bring in a new thing, it won't add a new thing because you have already set a rule with respect to the maximum number of instances that can be added to your infrastructure. Okay. Is this fine?
Thank you, Prashant.
So Prashant, so this is kind of upscaling. So what if Does it consider that time as well? But for that 10 minute, if the CPU remains continuously above 70%, then we'll scale up. So is it
Exactly.
something
So
like that, or
yeah,
as soon as it just hits the 75% mark, it immediately just creates a new instance?
okay. I was expecting someone to ask the question. So basically what happens is, it's not always like, okay, we have set this threshold to 75%. So immediately 75% reached, okay, immediately add. Because what might happen if we add like that, what might happen is,
Yeah.
it might be a case of false spike.
Yes.
It only also, because say suppose, say suppose some QAs are automating, not the QAs in your organization, but some external QAs who are actually learning, automation. They might, say, okay, let me take this site as a website as an example, and let me automate it and see how to learn automation. Now, what happens is, they might run multiple, multiple these things in parallel, and then they might check out different functionalities. So in this case, what happens is, your 75% might have crossed, but this 75% is not an actual spike, because once they are done with their automation, they will shut down, right? So
Yes.
you cannot have a particular thing wherein as soon as the 75% is reached, okay, immediately add a server. That is because you need to ignore the case of false spikes. That is the reason there is one more parameter that we consider, which is the time. So you will also specify here, like how much time you need to monitor that this particular, it has crossed this particular threshold. So suppose if it has gone above the 75% threshold level for almost, say suppose if you set the threshold to 5 or 10 minutes. So till the 10-minute period lapses, no new instances will be added. If still after 10 minutes, the same set of load is persisting, or the CPU utilization has increased above 75% for 10 minutes, then based on that rule, it will immediately go and start adding a new instance over here. Okay. Now one more, one more question that will come up is, okay, now you said, okay, you have added this particular CPU instance because it has stayed above, the threshold for 10 minutes. So I have added a new instance. Now the spike period has gone. So the spike period happened for almost 3 hours, and then it went away. Now what am I going to now what happened? Now your user base has again gone back, and your CPU utilization has dropped to, say suppose 40 or 50%. Now what happens? Now you have added an instance. Now you are bearing the cost for this third instance. Now don't you think in this particular case, my third instance should be removed, because my ideal use case, average use case scenario, as per what my client had said when he brought the requirement in, is like my average users should, or my average traffic should be handled with just 2 these things. Now, how do you think this will be managed? Any ideas anyone has?
Just guessing, it may be again depending on the time. It's for any specific duration of the time, if the utilization remains for that level, it may scale down then.
Right. So exactly. So basically, time becomes the parameter which will again be come into picture here. So now suppose what we did in order to add a new instance, what was the threshold and what was the parameter that we considered? Threshold was 75%, and the parameter that we considered was time for 10 minutes. Now, once your traffic goes back to normal, then again the same set of parameters will come into picture. One is the threshold, 75%. Is it above it? No, it is below it. Then what it will is, like, it will start monitoring, is it below the threshold for 10 minutes? If it is below the threshold for 10 minutes, then it will consider, okay, my spike period is over as per the rule that has been set as part of my scaling policy. My spike period is done. I'm going to go back to normal. So what it will do is, the auto scaling group will terminate this particular instance, and it will go back to its original case. Okay. Is this fine?
So Prashant, in the case of when it is downsizing, I mean downscaling, what it will do when the requests are still coming on that instance and it is in the process of terminating it. So will there be a loss of some request or something, or how it will manage that part?
No, what will happen in that particular instance is, see, I already said, right, when a new instance is being added, The ELB doesn't know about this particular instance unless and until the auto scaling group informs the ELB, I have added a new instance. The same thing will happen here. Before it takes down this particular system, it will inform the ELB, I'm going to remove this particular instance. So do not redirect the traffic to this instance.
Okay, the existing one will complete, and then that will, okay, sure.
Yes. So this is how auto scaling group manages everything. So so we have seen the 3 different types of auto scaling with the 3 different actual live use case scenarios. So any questions till now with respect to any of these auto scaling policies that we have seen as of now? If we are good, then probably we can move forward.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so moving forward, we saw like there are 4 different types, right, of scaling. So predictive scaling, I actually don't have a slide for this because this is a fairly new, auto scaling thing which has been added. But essentially, what happens in predictive scaling, I'll just give you a basic, because currently industry is have not adopted predictive scaling as of yet, or as of now this is not being used on a pretty bigger scale. The reason being, predictive scaling uses a mixture of dynamic scaling and machine learning algorithms. So what happens in predictive scaling is, say suppose if you go with predictive scaling example, or you say like for this I mean right now I'm not able to give you a use case. You can just take the use case of dynamic scaling itself, or you can take the use case of scheduled scaling also. So what happens in predictive scaling is, since we have machine learning as one of the core principles here, so what happens is, based on, say suppose for machine learning, you require what does machine learning, I mean just to give you a simple example of how machine learning works. Machine learning essentially creates a model as part of its implementation. Now what this model requires is a certain set of inputs through which it can actually observe those inputs and then infer and then learn from it. So now if that is the case, what are the inputs that predictive scaling or the machine learning models within the predictive scaling uses? So basically this can be anything ranging from your number of requests, incoming requests, or it can be your CPU consumption, or CPU consumption, your memory consumption, or any of these metrics whichever is available. These can be given as inputs to predictive scaling. So what predictive scaling will do is, as part of its machine learning algorithm models, it will just go through and observe it on a daily basis continuously. So for a period of time, it will just be a learning activity which will be happening on this particular predictive scaling. So when during that particular time period, it will be dynamic scaling who will be taking over. Dynamic scaling, based on the rules that you have set, it will do the scaling, and predictive scaling will be in the backseat, and it will keep on learning based on the parameters that you have set. Now once after a period of time, it feels like, okay, there is a sufficient amount of data and all my decisions that I, so when a dynamic scaling is making a decision or something like that, predictive scaling will also make a simultaneous decision, and then it will compare what is the correctness of the decision. If the decision is correct, or it feels okay, every decision on a subsequent basis is being accurate, and there is no uh, and there is no errors, then what will happen is predictive scaling will come and it will take the front seat, and it will do it. Now when it says predictive scaling will come, now based on the inferences or the learning that it had over a period of time, now it will do it on that basis. Now the reason why I said it has not been adopted on a larger scale in the market is because most of the cases people are pretty sure on exactly when they want to add a new instance, what kind of metrics that they want to observe. So that's the reason the first 3 are already satisfying the customer's needs, and predictive scaling is kind of like a time bound activity which requires a certain amount of learning period. So probably because of that, the move has not been taken place as of yet. But right now, since machine learning is one of the most upcoming, everywhere you can see, even in Redshift and some of the services, Amazon is introducing machine learning on a very huge number of places or services, the underlying principles are running on machine learning, and some of the models are already pre-trained. So even once we have some pre-trained models and everything which will be added into predictive scaling, right, probably predictive scaling might take over all of these particular things. So as of now, these three are the ones which are very excessively and usually used in the market. Okay, is this okay?
Yeah, Prashant.
Okay, so moving forward. Okay, so this is basically the entire thing. So when the CPU utilization goes down, when the CPU utilization goes up, we'll add 2 new instances, and once it goes down, these two instances will be removed and this one will be added. Like it will go back to the original thing, which is the 2 instances.
Yeah.
Now, okay. Now I have a few other slides which will help us understand a multi-availability zone setup. This is just one use case scenario which I'm saying, so that people, whenever they observe these kinds of sudden instances which happen in your environment, people get confused. Okay, what is happening? So I just wanted to clear this one concept out before we actually go to the console. Okay, so say suppose, as we were talking about in the last few things, I said only we are putting one instance in one availability zone, other instance in the other availability zone for a highly available system. Now in this particular case, right, what happens when one instance get terminated? Now this is my scenario. What will happen if one of the instance get terminated, like it goes terminated, or accidentally someone has terminated, or it has gone down, something has happened and this instance has gone down. Now, based on whatever you have learned till this particular point, what can you say what will happen here?
I feel like nothing will happen, right? There will be already high availability. The other instances, the load will be get distributed to other two instances, right?
Right, but did you see the conditions that we have given for auto scaling group here?
Yeah, minimum 2, so it's already
desired count is 6, right? Okay.
Yeah. So what happens?
Desired count might have a problem. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you set a desired number of instances as 6, so what happens in this particular case is, right now you are saying minimum is 2, my maximum is 6, but my desired number at any given point of time should be 6. Now, if that is the case, then what happens in this particular scenario is, if any of these goes down, the fleet management scaling will automatically kick in and it will bring the server up.
Okay, you mean to say the new instance will be created for that?
Yes, there will be a new instances which will be added to this specific availability zone, not in this one. So whichever availability, okay, yeah, you have a question.
In this case, what is the point of having minimum 2 here?
Minimum 2.
Minimum 2.
Yeah, minimum 2 is like this is like the bare minimum that you need to have. Say suppose what happens is, somehow some big event has happened and all your instances have gone down. Now the AWS has not something happened, some natural calamity or something. In that particular case, AWS is not able to meet out your demand for desired number of instances. So what it will check, what is the next basis of the parameter for it to assign you an instance, is what you have given here.
Okay.
This is only in a very exigent circumstances. To handle those kinds of scenarios, they are accepting this as a parameter.
All right, Prashant.
Okay. Any other questions?
All good, Prashant.
Okay. So moving forward, now my next question is, now what happens in case if this entire availability zone goes down? The same setup. We have it across multiple availability zone, the 3 servers in 2 different availability zones. And now what happens here in this particular case? What if your entire availability zone goes down, or something happens in a particular availability zone, maybe an earthquake or something, your entire availability zone has gone down. So what happens in this particular case?
No idea.
Okay.
So in this case, shouldn't it keep just those the three which is in the zone B, because you mentioned that minimum is 2, so it's 3 is more than minimum requirement, because in the availability zone A it can't do anything as of now because of some issue.
Right.
So
actually, that's a valid point. The valid point is only when AWS is facing, I mean, the entire Amazon is facing some restrictions with respect to assigning instances. But right now, it's not that situation, right? It's just one availability zone which has gone down, but the other availability zone might have free spaces, right?
So additional 3 instances will be launched here?
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
So what it will do is, it will add another new 3 sets of instances in the previous, in the second availability zone, to ensure that your maximum is kept at the one that you have desired it. So
Okay.
that's
What happens if the availability zone is back recovered after 1 or 2 hours? What exactly happens, Prashant?
yeah, okay. So that is the next particular part that we'll be coming to. So once you have these 6 instances running in the other availability zone, or the zone B supporting all these particular cases, now say AWS has, maybe there was a huge network drop or something which happened in the previous availability zone. Say not earthquake. Let's just say the internet connection with that particular availability zone got cut off, and that's the reason this incident happened. Now what happens after 2 to 3 hours, as as someone said, like what happens if the availability zone is brought brought back to work? Now what happens in this particular scenario? Now in this scenario, what should happen as per you?
A minimum of 2 should be probably launched in previous zone, which has been brought back.
Right.
And
Yes. Yes. I mean, this minimum, maximum, and desired number of instances, right? This only applies, like, just to clear one particular fact, minimum, maximum, and the desired number of instances only applies to the case of auto scaling group. The initial setting that you have done, right, with 3 instances in zone 1 and the other one in zone 2, that is as part of your network setup. So auto scaling group will not tamper with the settings that you have done as part of your network setup. Its only job is to ensure that if you have said, I want a maximum number is 6 and minimum is 2, but my desired number is 6, then I need to ensure that any given point of time, even if some failure happens at the instance level, availability zone level, or any level, I need to ensure that 6 instances should be running. So this is the only job or motto of auto scaling group. When it comes to reorganizing back, so initially what was the organization structure that you have set up? 3 servers in one availability zone, other 3 in this. So this is what is your infra setup. So so your auto scaling group will never tamper with your infra setup. So so to answer your question, what it will do is, it will essentially, what you said is right, it will start creating instances back in the availability zone 1, but it won't be 2. It will fall back to the original infrastructure that you had developed.
Okay.
So it will again fall back to the original one which you had set up with 3 and 3 as the basis. Is that clear? I mean,
so in the case when it will recreate those 3 instances in the original availability zone, so it will terminate the other 3 instances in the other zone, right?
yes, exactly. So the next slide that we'll be saving is the same thing. So this particular concept is called as rebalancing capacity. So what happens in this particular case is, a new instance, it won't be like all the instances will immediately be migrated. So what it will do first is, it will go and set up a new instance in this particular availability zone. Only when this this instance has been completely set up and is in operation in this availability zone, the security group will tell the load balancer here to not redirect the traffic to this instance. Now once elastic load balancer knows, okay, I should not redirect the traffic here, he will only use these 5, and once this entire thing is free, it will bring this down and it will say, now register this with you. So one instance which has brought it will brought up here will be registered with the ELB, and this will become the phi new. So this will become the new setup. Okay.
Yeah.
Now moving forward, so this will continue until and unless it reaches your original infrastructure design. Is this fine?
Yeah, Prashant.
Okay. So I guess we have seen most of the concepts, actual real life. I mean the concept, the scenarios that might come up and the concepts that we need to use. So I guess this is fine, right? So we'll move for. There is one more slide. I'll just come back when we before like we'll go back to our original this thing. Like we'll do some practicals for fleet this thing. So at that time we'll come back to this particular slide. So any questions till this point?
No, it's all good, Prashant.
Okay, cool. So I'll be moving forward. I mean, as you might have seen already in your previous exam, previous sessions, with respect to EC2 instances and everything, like this is the console which we have for EC2, and your auto scaling group is one of the key features which is present within auto scaling, within EC2 service. So this is your auto scaling groups, which is present under auto scaling. You have one more thing called as launch configurations and another thing called as launch template. The reason I'm specifically bringing these three terminologies is because this is what is being used predominantly, launch templates and launch configurations. You need to remember these two particular properties within the EC2 service: launch templates and launch configurations. Okay, this is what becomes the basis for your auto scaling groups. Okay, now
Yeah. So if you see here in our previous classes, we have discussed about EC2, right? Under instances, I purposely not explained about launch templates. Why? Because this launch templates has been newly introduced for auto scaling groups. Earlier, we were doing auto scaling groups only with launch configurations. If you can scroll down, Prashant, so you can see launch configurations under auto scaling groups, right? So either you can create your auto scaling groups either with one of them, either with launch configuration or launch templates. Now Prashant will be taking you to with launch templates or launch configurations and what is the differences between them, and create a fleet the first type of auto scaling group. Okay, over to you, Prashant.
Okay, thanks, Harish. So yeah, moving forward. So basically, as we said, as Harish also mentioned, launch templates and launch configurations, becomes the basis of your auto scaling principles or auto scaling setup. So we will go through them one by one. So first we'll go through a launch configuration, and then we'll go to launch template, and then we'll see what is the difference between the two. Probably, or we can do it in this way. We'll see launch configuration, then fall back to our slide. We'll see what is the difference between the two, and then come back and do the for launch template. So we'll go in that order. So now when we say launch configurations, right, you can say, I'll explain what launch configuration is. So launch configuration is more like, okay, what was the main feature of auto scaling? Like we discussed auto scaling for, almost about like more than 45 to 1 hour. So what do you think, what is the main feature of auto scaling?
So based on demand, by the way you are
right. So based on demand, we either bring up new servers, bring down bring down servers, or the other part you say, as we saw, like in case if a server goes down, to bring up new instances, right? So basically it's either bringing up new servers or bringing down existing servers is what auto scaling does, right? If in a nutshell, if we have to summarize that. I hope everyone agrees with that particular point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, for sure.
So if that is the case, now do you think, like, okay, if that is the case, how does auto scaling group know which particular instance I have to bring up, or what are the settings?
They might have a set of rules defined somewhere.
Exactly.
As you said, maybe within the template or within the configuration somewhere, which will tell that, okay, this is what you should be doing in this particular situation.
Right. So every auto scaling group that you create doesn't get created on its own. So before creating an auto scaling group has a dependency on either a launch template or on a launch configuration. So when you say launch configurations, this is the this is the setup, whatever the configuration, the launch configuration when you create it, right? This is the property which specifies or supports this auto scaling group to to let them know, okay, what a kind of instance or what are the settings the instance should have, whichever it needs to either bring up. Okay, basically all the things related to the instance will all be configured here, like what VPC the instance should be created and what security group the instance should be assigned to, everything what from scratch what needs to happen, that should happen using this particular configurations. So based on that particular basis, what we will do is we'll just go ahead and we'll create a launch configuration. Now as part of this, we'll say my demo launch configuration. Then I need to I already said to you, right? You auto scaling group doesn't decide, oh, I need to bring one instance has gone down, I need to bring one more instance. It needs to have a basis in order to bring up an instance, what kind of thing. So it cannot randomly go and bring up a very high some major instance and then bring it up and then ask the client to pay for it. The client has to be given the option what kind of instance needs to be brought up. So that is what we are configuring here. So if you see here, it is asking, yeah, okay, one more thing before we go ahead. I hope everyone is aware about the AMI or the Amazon machine image. Harish?
Yeah, Prashant, I have covered it.
Okay, fine. So since everyone is aware, so basically I'll just give a brief, just a few sentences on this. So what happens in any organization when you're in an infrastructure team or something like that. So what happens is no organization will probably, I'll say large scale organization, what they do is they won't just select the default instances or directly access when it comes to your image. What they will do is they will run multiple level of scripts called usually we call it as hardening. Instance hardening is the term that is usually used. So when I say instance hardening, means there will be a script which will be written. This script will run through the entire system what you are using for your image in your default images. So if suppose I go for this one, I selected this instance. So usually what happens, the the infra team will run some hardening scripts on this particular instance once it has been created. So once the scripts are run, so then the security test will be they will run a security test on these particular instance which are running. And if it is found that the security test has passed, say suppose 80% of the tests have been passed, and that is a good enough metric for the organization, then what they will do is immediately they will create an image out of it, which will be the custom image for that organization. Now any project or something they want to create their own setup, they have to use this image because this has been hardened for any security restrictions. Okay.
Yeah. So in our case, what exactly we have done is, so we have installed Ninjix server, and we try to recover those image by creating an image we have done, right, when we are recovering a EC2 instance. So that's what Prashant is explaining now.
Yes. What Harish
so
said
in our
is,
case, since it was a demo lab, we installed only one server, but in the real time we will install all the required softwares and the user data, everything will be there. And the AMI will be created automatically as per the demand.
Correct. So what Harish said in this particular example is the next stage what comes in your case. So what happens is once the hardening is done, the images will automatically be kept or will be available as part of your AMIs. Now that is an organization specific security compliant image. But what happens is, as Harish said, in your case, Your application might be using, say, suppose Nginx server and all those particular things. These are the bare default softwares that every every application server that you are trying to bring up will have. So what you will do is, rather than going and installing all of this again and again, what you are going to do is, you are just going to install the hardened instance AMI will be there, right? You will create a new instance out of it, and on the running instance you will log in. You will set up all these softwares, the common softwares that you have, and then once you have all these common softwares installed and pre-built into your systems, you will again create an image out of it. Now this is the second image that you have created. Now this image, as Harish said, is your application specific image. Now henceforth, any particular application that you're deploying or something, you will be using this image. Now this image will be a hardened image plus your common utilities or common application softwares installed image. Both will be present in that. Is that clear for everyone?
Yes, Prashant.
Okay. So moving forward, right now, as we said, we cannot do all the hardening and all those particular things. So just for the sake of demo, we will be choosing a by default image as of now. So as far as the by default image is concerned, I'll take this one so that even you can go ahead and try it out at home whenever you're free. So I'll be taking this particular image just to. So once we do, so you will get an option to choose this particular things. So I'll just put this image name ID and I'll get this one. I'll just select this. So my image has been selected now. Now, once your image is selected, now you have specified what image. I'm using a default Amazon image itself. Now I need to know which particular instance type also, right? Otherwise it will be like, okay, I specified the image, but then what type of instance, if I don't specify, then it won't work, right? I need to specify for my organization which is the most suitable image. So for now, I'll take the one with the free tier.
T2 micro, Prashant.
T2 micro. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go with T2 micro.
So everyone, when you're trying to do the lab, try to do with T2.micro only, so that it is a free tier.
Okay. So we'll just choose this particular option, which is T2 micro, which is the free option in this particular case. And then you have some additional configurations which are optional as of now. So we are not going to do anything in this particular case. Basically, I mean, you might have already, Harish might have already taken, he might have already done a walkthrough against what are the different types of instances, spot instances, reserved instances. So if your application demands that kind of setup and everything, then you can go and configure those by selecting this option, and this will be the price that will come in. You can feed whatever you want, with respect to your demand, and on that basis, you will be assigned the spot instances for this particular configuration. But as of now, we are not using the spot instances and that setup. We are going with the default set of setups, the free tier ones, basically. And here in this particular case,
IAM roles I have not covered, Prashant. You can skip that.
Okay. Then for now, I'm not going to go through the IAM. So we'll default whatever is the role that will be assigned. And monitoring, this is like again related to CloudWatch. So since you have a separate session on that, we'll not be going through that. And this is the EBS optimized instance in case if you want more of a block storage and everything. These are basically the EC2 related configurations. You might have already covered this as part of your instance configuration here. So you can just go through that particular details and everything. So here it's an optional field. So if you want, you can go ahead and create it. Now, this is the default one that comes with this particular thing. So this has been assigned. So we are going to use the default volume. Now, in this particular case, this auto scaling group, since we are actually setting up EC2 instances by using this configuration. So of course, we will have to, provide details with respect to all these things. Security group. So in case if you want, I'll see if there is a default security group. So I'll just use the default security group as of now. And then with respect to key pair, you can create a new key pair, or you can proceed with an existing one, or you can even choose an existing key pair or something. Let's see, I have an auto scaling key pair which is already created. I'll just select that Let's say I acknowledge. And the reason the key pair, this particular thing is important is once any particular instance that will be created, henceforth, even if some instance goes down, a new instance brings up, all of them will be accessible via this key pair. So any new instances gets added, deleted, or even if say you have used the combination of one instance only as your server, even if that goes down and comes up, this key pair will be able to access it. Okay, so I'll just create this particular thing and your launch configuration will be created. Now, this is my launch configuration, which has been created. Fine. Everyone's okay till now with the launch configurations?
Yes,
Yep.
Prashant.
Okay. Similarly, we'll go and check one of the examples with respect to launch templates as well.
Just the session will be extended around 15 more minutes. Let's complete this first type of auto scaling group.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope it's okay with everyone if we extend. I mean, I'm sorry, it took a bit of time, but yes, I'll just try to quickly, walk through exactly what, how to set up one thing so that you can at least go ahead and try it at home. That would be okay with everyone, right?
Yes, Prashant.
Okay, sure. So I'll just go and create a launch template quickly. So I'll create another demo template with say LT, and then you can give a version or a description for this particular thing. I can say my demo template just as a name or something like that. Then this is the auto scaling guidance guide in case if you require. So once you enable this particular thing, it will walk you through all these particular things. I mean in detail, like it will guide you through that. And in case if you want to add any tags to the template, you can add basically. So I'll just add a name saying to it. This is demo launch template. Okay, so this is the source template in case if you want, in case if there is any other optional source you want to specify then, but usually we won't because we are creating a fresh template. So we are going to be using this as a main source of truth as of now. Then the AMI instance, as we said, I hope, okay. So this is the one. I'll just select this particular thing. Then instance type, we said it is T2 micro. So I'll select the T2 micro. So it's exactly the same. Whatever you have done in launch configuration, the same set of steps here. I'll select the auto scaling key pair, VPC. So this is what we are going to use. We are not going to go with that one. And I'm going to use the default VPC and the security group will be applied to that. And this is the default set of storage or the EBS volumes that comes with the free tier, instance type. And the network interfaces, we are not going to use it since we are trying to do a free thing. And then in the advanced details, you will get all these IAM install or what should be the shutdown behavior. These are the standard things which you will, get as part of your EC2 setup, right? So exactly all these are all those particular things. Metadata
So
and
is
user
there any
data.
difference, Prashant, in configuration and the template?
Yes, exactly. We'll come to that. So I'll just create this template. Let's complete this template creation. We'll go back to the slide. So where we have put some details, some highlighted details, which will be, used. So I'll just create this launch template. So once you create this launch template, you can create an auto scaling group directly by clicking here also. But in my case, for our case, just for understanding, I'll just go and see the launch template. So this is the launch template things. Okay. So my launch template is created and my launch configuration is created. Now, let's just go back to the original slide and see what is the difference. Now, this is the common functionality which both launch template as well as launch configuration has. Now, launch template is similar to your launch configuration, which usually auto scaling group uses to launch EC2 instances. So this everyone agrees, right? We already agreed to this particular thing in the beginning before we went. Now, these are the two significant differences which launch configuration and launch template has. So we define the configuration for the instances, in both of them. But one additional features that launch template will support is this launch configuration is explicitly specific to your auto scaling group. Okay, but launch template is not explicitly specific to auto scaling group. You can use it elsewhere as well. This is a template. Okay, this is one point which I have not included here, but I wanted to mention this particular thing. The main two differences are this. However, defining a launch template instead of a launch configuration allows you to have multiple versions of a template. Say suppose we'll go and see what the version is in a while. After we go, we'll jump there also, jump to that particular practical thing over there. So what happens is when you create a launch configuration, right? So once you have created a launch configuration, it is done. You will not be able to change that configuration after this, because that is a set configuration that you have created. But in the case of launch template, I mean, it's not like you cannot change it, but you cannot have multiple versions of the same configurations. But in the case of launch template, what happens is you can create multiple versions of the same template. Now, when I say multiple versions of the same template, say suppose now my auto scaling group is running with the launch template, which is using T2 micro. But now, as I gave you the example, initially when I started off as a startup, yeah, it's worked out perfectly fine for me. But now what is happening is, now the T2 micro is not enough. I need to ensure my auto scaling group is working with, a new set of systems. I want to set up a new infra. So in this particular case, what I'll do is, I will not go and, create an entire infra again. What I just need to do is, I will just go here into my launch template, which I have used as part of my auto scaling group. What I will say is, if you see here, there is something called version. This is my first version. Now, if I want to change some details out of it, so I can just go here and I can say modify the template or create a new version. Now, in this particular case, I'll just go here, my template version, the rest of the details will automatically come here. You can change some of the details. Say suppose I don't, in this particular case, say suppose, what can I say? I don't want to use this default thing. I'll go, I don't have any other, is it? So, okay. So I'll say I'll use this one. So now in this case, I have made this change. And when I create this template version, right, I'll go to this particular thing. Now, if you see, I have two sets of versions in this template itself. One template which is running with a different set of security group, this template which is running with a different set of security group. So what you can do is you can version your infra. Whatever infra provisions that you are handling with these launch templates, you can version it, especially with respect to your instances and what those instances security groups, subnets, whatever it is, you can handle everything by creating multiple versions. Now I want to make 2 as my default one. So what I will do is I'll select 2. Then as part of this, I'll say set this to default version. Now then it will ask whether you want to confirm this as a default version. Now as soon as you confirm this, the template with the version 2 what you created will become your default version. And the settings that is there in this template will be what your auto scaling group will take into consideration. Is this fine?
Yeah, it's clear, Prashant.
Okay, so I'll just move back to my original thing. So since it's the free one, and okay, sorry, I need to cancel this, go back and just set it back to 1 back. So this is my default one. I'm setting it back. Now I'm going to launch templates. So this is the one that we had created. Now, one another difference, okay, just coming back to the slide again. One another difference is launch template allows you to add multiple instance type instead of just one single type. So basically what happens in the case of launch template is you can configure spot instance, reserve instance, all those things what you can do, right? Those particular things you can configure it here also. So this is the additional advantage that you get. But the main advantage is this one. Is that fine?
Yeah.
Okay. Now quickly moving through auto scaling groups, I'll create so just to show, I'll just go back to instances. So as of now, I have no running instances here. Now I'll be going, We'll just go back here and just see EC2. Okay, so running instances as of now is 0. I'll just go back here, go to auto scaling groups. I'll create my auto scaling group here. Okay, creating an auto scaling group. I'll just name it as demo scaling group. Now here you have two things. One is you create this auto scaling group using a launch configuration. Where, like when you click on it, it will go and give you the option for selecting a launch configuration, like how it is giving for launch template as of now, or you can use the launch template itself. So basically it's one and the same. The console remains the same. The only thing is the difference that I said right now. So in the interest of time, since launch template is the one which we usually use on an industry level, I'll go ahead and I'll go with launch template. So this is the launch template that I created, demo launch template. I have selected. So here you can specify the version as well. The default one is 1. So I'll select 1. And then these are the details of the launch template. What kind of, AMI ID, the security group, the instance type and everything you can see over here. And then I can do a next. Now this is like if you want a different type of on-demand spot instances and all, you can configure here in case if you need. But right now we are only going with the launch template, the current launch template. So here we have the VPC which has come by default when we selected as part of the launch template. Now we need to select the subnets. So usually we will select subnets, multiple subnets, to ensure that it will span across multiple zones. And then I'll just do a next. You want a load balancing. For now I'm saying I don't need a load balancer. I'm just doing a fleet this thing. So you can enable the load balancing also, but if you don't want to go with the load balancer and you just want to see how the features work, you can just go with enable load balancing. Okay, so now this is like this. So there are two set of things. One is ELB health checks you can do, or EC2 health checks. So by default, if your ELB isn't enabled or you have not enabled load balancing, then we will then by default the auto scaling group will check EC2 health check as the default type. And what is the health check period is what you can specify here. You can reduce the time also. I'll just keep it as maybe 10 or probably 20 seconds. I can say just 10 seconds to do the health check, to check on the EC2 instances. And then this is if you want the metrics to be present or observed within CloudWatch, you want to watch it, then you can enable this particular thing. You can do it later also after you have created it. So I'm moving forward. Now, as part of the initial slides, we had already seen there are 3 key parameters which auto scaling group accepts. One is the desired capacity, which is which is at any point of time how many instances you want to run is the desired capacity. Minimum capacity is 1. Maximum capacity, as of now I'm keeping it as 1. You can make it as 2 also, or you can keep the desired to 2 and this also 2. You can experiment it based on however you want. And probably in the next session, in case if you have any questions with that, we can probably take it up and we can try to resolve it. And so right now I'm just going with the fleet. So in the case of fleet, I don't need a scaling policy. It is just to ensure that my systems are always up and running. If you remember our Skeet, this particular infrastructure for fleet management was just to ensure that my systems are always up and running, right? So that's the reason I'm not selecting any scaling policy. Okay, I'm just moving next. So this is like notifications. If you want to add any kind of
you can skip this notification, Prashant. I'll cover SNS and SQS and SES in different session.
Okay, cool. So basically this is just to provide notifications in case if you need. You can configure it here. This can be done later as well. Then this is the tags for the auto scaling group, or these are the tags basically, okay, which you can add to the new instances. So I'll just say name again, and this will be, I'll say auto scaling group, EC2 hyphen auto scaling group or something, EC2 hyphen auto scaling group. So this is tag new instances with this particular thing. So I'll just do a next, and this is what it is. So this is the review console wherein you can see everything. You can review whatever you want, and then you will say create auto scaling group. Now, once you click on create auto scaling group, right? Immediately what you will see is your auto scaling group was created successfully, and immediately you can just go here and you can check all these particular things, and you can go to the activity tab. So in the activity tab, you will find all the activities that the auto scaling group is doing. Now, the first thing is it went through the rules that you have set, and it is saying that your capacity and everything, whatever you have set, based on that, it has taken a decision to create an instance. Now, so if you see, this is the instance which is right now creating. Fine. So
Yeah.
anything.
In your case,
Yeah.
sorry,
Go
Prashant,
ahead.
just to add on, in your case, when you're trying to do the lab, right? So select an AMI which is already having a Ninjix server. So you already seen, right, how to install Ninjix server into an EC2 instance. So install a Ninjix server into your EC2 instance, select that AMI, so that whenever the instance is launched like this through auto scaling group, using that instance ID, you can check whether the server is available or not. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to add one more point, like since we have created now auto scaling group, right? For the all the three types of auto scaling group, either fleet or scheduled or it is a dynamic scaling, the user interface is same. It's only like as Prashant showed the option, right? Since we are not doing dynamic scaling, we are doing the fleet one now. So this is how we created. And Prashant, can you go to that instance management?
Okay.
And show the scheduling one for them?
Yeah. So
Sorry, it is under auto scaling, right? Yep.
yeah. So basically, what happens is it is under our this one automatic scaling policies. So we just need to add a
Yeah.
policy here. What
Yeah.
kind of
So
policy?
here you can create a second type of auto scaling, like create a schedule action one. And third one is the dynamic one, which Prashant has skipped while creating the auto scaling group. That is the third policy. So you will not have three different type of user options to create for three different type of auto scaling group. The user interface is same, but while creating based on your requirement, you will select what type of auto scaling group you need to create here in the console. Yeah.
Is this fine? So okay. So basically, now if you go back to activity, so your this thing, so it will say the status is successful. So it is trying to launch a new instance with this particular ID, and the status was successful. This is the activation history. Now, if you go here, you will find all the details with respect to whatever it has set up and everything at this particular point of time. And the instance management will have the details with respect to what is the instance, what are the number of instances which has been created as part of this auto scaling group. Okay. The monitoring part.
Prashant, can you terminate that EC2 instance and show the activity log which is generated automatically?
Yeah, sure. I'll just walk through the monitoring as well as the last part of it, and then we'll terminate it. So
Sure.
now if you see here, this is the monitoring part of it. In this particular case, we have not enabled this metric collection, right? So right now there is nothing over here. In case if we enable it, all these particular things will get enabled. And this is the EC2 metrics, and this is the auto scaling metrics. So we have two different metrics for both of them. And then the last tab, which is the instant refresh. So instance refresh. So basically in this particular case, what we are going to do is we are doing an instance refresh. So in this case, we will schedule a refresh for all these instances which are, so in case if you want to do an instance refresh, so for all the instances that are associated with this auto scaling group, you can just come here, you can do a start instance refresh, and then you can set this particular rule, and then you can start the instance refresh from here. As of now, just to immediately demonstrate like what happens when that instance something happens over there. So what will happen is I'll just go here. This is anyway selected. I'll go to the actions, instance state. I'll terminate this particular instance.
Yeah.
Now, as soon as this instance gets terminated, you can come back here. You can just refresh this particular activity tab.
I guess below one you need to refresh, Prashant.
Okay, sorry.
It's not yet reflected here. It's still in shutting down.
So as soon as this, Yeah.
So
Go
what
ahead.
happens here is like Prashant showed in the slides, right? Whenever a mission is terminated, either a user terminated or is it terminated with different problems like memory fill or AWS availability zone is down. Now we are terminating our instance, which is created through autoscaling group. So now autoscaling group, what it do is it automatically detects, yes, now EC2 is terminated. Now we need to spin up a new instance and make the instance available for the user. That's what autoscaling group will do now. So all those things you can monitor in this activity history.
Right.
Strange.
No, actually, I modified that particular the time which was being given for that
Okay.
EC2 instance, right? So that's the reason.
Health check,
Let
right?
me,
Okay.
yeah, health check thing. So it is because of that I reduced that particular time period. 1 second. So let me just. This is fine. Right.
It'll take time, Prashant. The 10
Yeah.
activities, right? 10 seconds means in at least 100 seconds it will take.
Yeah. This is default. So it will take that. So if I would have kept it as the default thing, right? It should have spun by now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, in the interest of time, so basically I have modified some of the settings in that particular thing, and I reduced that particular time interval for this EC2, monitoring of this particular thing. So that's the reason the next time
it got it.
Yeah.
So now if you see the activity log, that it is terminating the EC2 instance. Now after a few time, right? So it will automatically spin up a new instance that you can see in the activity log. And when you go back to your EC2 instance dashboard, you can see a new instance is spinned up instead of. Yeah, if you see here, a new instance is already spinned up and it will be active. So all those things you can monitor in activity history tab under autoscaling group.
So basically now if we just refresh it,
yeah.
So this is in service. So you just need to check the status from this particular point of time, and all the activities that happen as part of this security group will be present here. And now one more important point that now since the instance is coming up again, so one more in the interim I wanted to make one last point is whenever now what happens is all your instances and everything are being controlled by this this one, the autoscaling group as of now. Now what happens is if you want to terminate a particular instance or something like that, you will not be able to do that. The reason being, this entire thing is controlled by autoscaling group and its rules. So if you want to shut down this particular thing, you don't want to go ahead with whatever it is doing as of now, then the thing that you have to do is you need to come and you need to delete the autoscaling group. Only then all the associated resources, especially the EC2s, will get removed using this EC2 instance, will get deleted when you delete the autoscaling group only. Otherwise those instances will keep on popping up.
Yeah. So if you do the lab and leave the lab as it is, based on your lab configuration, say for example, if you're trying for 6 instances to minimum to and maximum 3, always 6 instances of EC2 will be available in your EC2 dashboard. If you forget to terminate this auto scaling group, right? So those 6 instances, even though you terminate EC2 instances, after a couple of minutes, all those instances will be respinned again and it will be available. So make sure that after the lab, when you practice auto scaling group, you need to terminate this auto scaling group. Then only your EC2 resources will be shut down. Okay.
So you can just come here, click on this particular security group and then delete it, and all the associated EC2 resources will be deleted from the whatever is the current ones which are running based on your configuration that you have set, it will be deleted from here. Yep. So that's all from the current settings part of it. So any other questions?
Before terminating and take up for the questions.
Yeah. Okay.
Nothing from my side as of now. All good. Thanks, Prashant.
Okay, cool. Anyone else having any questions or doubts or something?
Thank you so much, Prashant, for joining the session and giving the beautiful session. By the way, thank you so much.
Thanks, Chandra. Okay. I mean, if there are no questions, probably we can stop.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Prashant. Thanks, Harish.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, facilitating this particular thing
Thank
today.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
So utilize your weekend for doing this session. And let me know if you have any queries when you are doing this session. Okay. So we are doing only one model here, which we showcased. In next lab, we will see about dynamic scaling. Schedule scaling, it is self-explanatory. You can just go to the options and you can do that schedule scaling based on the configuration what you give. Check whether the EC2 instance are spinned up or not. Okay, but dynamic one, I will show you, because for dynamic one, we need to make some spikes, right? Like installing this test tool and all. So that we will see in our next lab. But for this weekend, so I don't want to stop today's class. That's the reason I invited Prashant to continue the class and complete this auto scaling group so that you'll have some time to do that. Thanks so much, Prashant.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Prashant.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Harish.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.